Warning, I will do my absolute best to avoid as many spoilers as humanly possible. So sit back and enjoy the review for Ghost of Tsushima. When Ghost of Tsushima was first announced, I couldn't be more excited. We were finally going to get a good samurai game that was single player only, and it was going to be amazing. And I'm here to tell you that that is exactly what the game is. Sheerly amazing. The story itself, I'm going to leave up to you to decide if it's good or bad, but I promise you it's good, but I'm going to make sure to stay away from the story to avoid any type of potential spoilers. So let's keep this in order. The first thing I really want to go over is going to be the atmosphere and the overall feel of the game. If you were to tell me that this game was on PS5, I would be inclined to believe you. The game itself is beautiful. The environment is amazing. The textures are very believable and cool, and it puts you in this amazing environment that's always changing. Things like dynamic weather effects are always constantly manipulating the world, and as you go from different mountaintop to valley, things are always changing with you. You have the golden leaves all over the place. You have the cherry blossom trees. You have the sky shot with lightning or piercing your retinas with its golden god rays from the sun. And to make the game as immersive as possible, they completely avoided things like the HUD. I mean, I shouldn't say completely. There is something still there because it's a game, but the purist in you can actually turn it off in the settings. The game, moreover, relies on the actual guiding winds that bring you from place to place, and as you unlock more skills of that caliber, you can see smoke trails going off. The game seemed to borrow a lot from other games around it, and that's really what's making it great. It didn't decide to reinvent the wheel just to repurpose it. You see, as you unlock more skills, you look ahead of you on your map with your actual eyeballs rather than pressing a map button, and you can see smoke off in the distance, and you wonder, maybe I should follow this smoke. And you would be right, because the game is trying to lead you in a direction where another quest is going to be. And if you want to be lame, you could press the options button and look at the map and find where you are and map your next target, and in the top left you'll see where you want to go. They wanted to be inclusive to all the people that want maps, but if you don't want maps, all you have to do is swipe up on the touchpad of the PS4 controller and the guiding winds will show you where you want to go. And if you don't know where to go, the game does something that is pretty genius. It puts different animals in the world, like the golden parrot. I think it's a parrot, but it puts the golden parrot and a fox for you to follow, and these will lead you to different shrines and bamboo things and different haikus and hot springs, and those are some of like the mini games and side quests that you're going to find organically while you play the game. You don't have to go into any sub menu. All you have to do is look for the animals. And that's one of the things this game does best. It's not holding your hand, it's merely guiding you. And just like the wind, the animals will lead you to where you want to go, but you still have the decision of where you want to go next.
Do you surrender?
Moving right along, I'm going to move on to a major factor of this game that constantly brings me back for playing, and it's not the combat yet. Yes, it has something to do with it, but it's something else. If you know me or any part of this other channel when I do the reviews, I really focus on a lot of things, but when a game delivers me a photo mode, that's when it truly sparkles in my eyes. And this game doesn't give you a lackluster Far Cry 5 terrible photo mode. No, this expands on the photo modes of like Shadow of War and Mad Max because it gives you a ton of different options that you can control. Of course, you can control things like facial animations now and where the camera's gonna be, pitch and roll, but you could also set different points for the camera and lock it almost like you're keyframing an animation. You could have camera here, camera there, camera close up, so when you get this amazing looking kill and you know that there's some pathetic dude in the background watching, you could put a camera on his face and have these cameras pan and play the animation so you can see all these amazing shots. You could change things like the weather dynamics while you are in the photo mode. You can change the expression on your character. You can hide your headband. You could hide your helmet. There is a ton of things you can do. Depth of field, you can change the color gradient, and you could also change the different filters. One of my favorite filters to look at is things like changing just the ginkgo, where everything else is black and white, and you still see the red. It looks like some amazing samurai film. And that brings me to my next point. I don't want to butcher the name of it. Okay, I'll butcher the name of it. I think it's called Kiwami mode. It's probably not right, but it's a mode that lets you put it into like traditional old school samurai movie mode where it's all black and white and the audio kind of sounds like but it really gives it a cool feel. So if you want to change it whenever you want, by the way, you're not just stuck with that. You could change that whenever you want and get a different type of like anime feel, I guess, for lack of a better term. I just think it's really cool that they add little details like that to enhance the player's experience rather than say, here's our story, play it one time and then forget about it. Now, let's move on to the big bite about this game, and that is going to be the overall combat. Things I appreciate in games, especially action games, is the replay value. I think, honestly, that's the most important factor in a game. So when looking at the replay value of this game, you can always get yourself into these amazing combat situations. So let's say I walk up to a fort and I think to myself, how am I going to challenge this fort? Am I going to be a jerk and hide in bushes and stand people in the back, or am I going to be an archer from the front? The game gives you something that you can do, which I very much appreciate. At any point that you kind of ambush enemies or walk up to a fort, you could tap up on the D-pad and Jin Sakai comes out like this, like, show me your best warrior. I just think that's so cool. It's giving me a ton of different options for what I want to do. This way I don't get bored doing the same thing over and over again. And when you challenge a fort or a group of bandits, you kind of sit there in like half cinema mode, holding triangle, waiting for that person to make that mistake. And when you see that they make that mistake, it goes to that nice slow-mo mode and you're chopping arms off. And when you get other skills, you can do it for up to additional 3 enemies. So you can pretty much wipe half a small base out going to standoff mode. Or if your play style is different and you want to be more of like a shinobi ninja, you could hide in bushes and start throwing things like firecrackers and stabbing people in the back, or jumping down from the roofs to kill them. Or if you're a Robin Hood, you get a ton of different bows and arrows that you can do. Fire arrows, explosive arrows, heavy arrows. There's so many things you can do. And to add to that, when you're being Mr. Robin Hood, if you're using a half bow and you made the mistake of shooting someone in the back of the head that's wearing a helmet, that arrow's gonna bounce off its head and he's gonna turn around like, who's shooting arrows at my head? It's a very nice touch. Overall, the combat is extremely satisfying. There is a litany of different execution moves that you could do on the fly, and that's just normal free-flowing combat. It feels a little bit like Batman-style combat mixed with Shadow of War, and one other game that I'll get to. As you progress in the game and you're unlocking other skills that you can see in the menu, so I hope I'm not actually spoiling this for you, but you can unlock other skills like pressing triangle and circle together to do like an instant guard break and sometimes an instant execution, much like it's the Batman series or much like it's the Shadow of War series. And you know, I love me some Shadow of War. You could also go into ghost mode where you completely sheath your weapon, go into slow-mo, and do multiple attacks, chopping people down left and right. You feel like a badass, and you're earning that through combat. You could pretty much do it whenever you want, but you have to earn it. And if you don't want to swing your sword around, you don't have to. You could switch to throwing shurikens and bombs and arrows. You could hide and break line of sight. You could throw a smoke bomb when they're not paying attention and run through the smoke and stab them up the throat with your wakizashi. It's very cool. To me, the combat is amazing. It gives me a ton of different variations that I can play from. Even using the sword, there's a bunch of different stances that you can switch from. And I encourage you guys, if you haven't heard of this franchise yet, to look into it. It's from Way of the Samurai. Way of the Samurai encouraged you to learn different styles, and you can swap them on the fly. High stance, low stance, mid guard. You get the whole picture. This game borrows from that and adds more layers where you can do different skills, but it's borrowing from Way of the Samurai. Like I said before, this game borrows. It doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, it repurposes it. Just like in the world, when you see smoke going off in the distance, you think Red Dead. You're like, yes, Red Dead did that, and it did it very well. So why do they need some pterodactyl flying in the sky telling you where you need to go? No, all they need is the wind and smoke, and the player does the rest. And as the game progresses, the combat gets harder and harder. Yes, you get better skills, and you feel like Rurouni Kenshin as the Batosai slaughtering people, but the Mongols themselves gain things like elites and captains. And that's a cool thing too with the captains. In the beginning of the game, you're trying to learn new stances. Don't tell me you're not trying to do that. So with these captains, you can observe them and learn their fighting style, and after you kill them, you gain like another point to unlock the next version of the style. I think it's a very cool way of unlocking different skills rather than be like, oh, I got 10 XP, let me learn XP stance number 3. No. you gotta go kill people for that. And the game just gets better and better from there. The more skills you get and the more story missions you do, you learn ghost style, and the enemies go from wanting to fight you to fearing you and falling on their behinds trying to run away. And that's where you come in to do those execution moves. If someone falls on their ass, you just go ahead and press square and stab them. It's very fun to do, but you know, you can let them run away, but they're Mongols, don't you let them run away. I've also seen a lot of comments and posts online comparing this game to Assassin's Creed, and it's not that I disagree or agree with that, but here's my feelings on it. Overall, when I was playing and walking around the open world and doing what I like to do of just going to random quests, killing a mob, moving on, looting, I find that really fun. And I thought back to Assassin's Creed 1 when I first played it. Yes, Assassin's Creed 1 had an overall story and quests to do, and mind you, the quests weren't that good. You're just kind of sitting and praying and like listening to people. But overall, what I really liked about Assassin's Creed 1, it gave the player freedom to do as they chose. As you walk through the open world, you can see a ton of crusaders like at a box and a preacher talking, or they're just walking around training, and you're like, I'm one dude and there's 15 of them. I'm gonna fight all of them. That's what Ghost of Tsushima reminded me of. It reminded me of playing Assassin's Creed 1 for the first time. Yeah, you can climb on certain things like it's Assassin's Creed, but I truly mean the overall combat. It let me say, there's 10 Mongols over there and it doesn't care about my level. I could just say, hey, I challenge you. That's what I really like. I just like having no handcuffs and being able to challenge what I want. So that's where the Assassin's Creed feel came into me. And of course the stealth kills was Assassin's Creed and Shadow of War. But I like the blend of what they did here. I really feel like they took Assassin's Creed and Red Dead and Way of the Samurai, and they also took, what is that other game? Oh, who knows? Shadow of War. They also took those games and put them into one pot, added some seasoning, and here's what we got. I digress, but as I end with the combat, I want to add one more thing in here. The combat involves a small loot system where after you kill people, you can pick up different ammo, supplies, and whatnot. And that helps you level up your gear so that you can fight more elites or more things at a time. But you can also find different armor based on what quest you're doing or a different bow, and that gives you different survivability options. So if you want to play as a Straw Hat Ronin, you can, and you'll have more melee damage, but you'll be a little bit weaker, or you can wear full Jinsekai armor and full samurai garb. And you'll take less damage, but you won't do as much damage as when you were the Straw Hat Ronin. But what I really like about this system is as you level it up, your appearance changes. And sometimes I didn't like the appearance. That's okay. In the menu options, I could say, you want to know what? I like the first version of Straw Hat as this Ronin, and I didn't like those clothes. I could still take the full upgrades without having to change my look. I want to look how I want to look, damn it. Last thing I want to talk about is the characters and the story. And like I said before, there's not really going to be any spoilers. I'm going to avoid doing that entirely. I really want you to play this game because the game is so new, I don't feel like any review should spoil that for you. But I do want to say one thing about the characters. In the beginning of the game, you could choose if you want to play it in full Japanese with subtitles, or you can choose English. And what I really appreciate about this is if you decide to play it in English because you don't have the weeb vision, it's not terrible voice acting. It's actually good or borderline great for this.
Outsiders! Send your finest warrior to face me!
The characters put full emotion in it, and the animators themselves, it seems like they animated the facial features, or it was mocap maybe, based on what language you chose. I really challenge you, I didn't do it myself, I probably should have, but I challenge you, if you're replaying the game or just want to make a different file, put it to Japanese first and see the different facial animations and see if the lips sync up. And if you haven't tried it in English, do the same. I'm pretty positive they did different animations based on what language you chose. So moving on to the characters, after the very beginning of the game plays and you meet that one character that kind of, bring things along and saves your dude, you're sitting there as like the cinema's playing and a Mongol's coming to that rice door and you're like, oh, am I gonna be able to win? And she, I'm not gonna say her name, or I'll say her name, I think it's Yuna. Yuna is like, don't worry, I know how to take care of this. And you're like, no, I'm a samurai and I couldn't do it. I lost to the Mongols. And right here I had my like zoomed out Zolly shot like, oh no, are they gonna do the thing that everyone doesn't like right now? But they didn't do the thing. But here's the thing. Normally, a game in the current year will kind of placate to a certain subsect of characters, and I don't mean to take away from anyone's belief on anything, but when I was playing as a samurai dude and I lost and I saw that Yuna was gonna kill this dude, I was like, yo, if they make her like some badass samurai thing, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. However, they decided to do something that's not done. They decided to use good writing. You see, she tells your character to hang back. Don't come out of the shadows. I got this. Let me handle it. And you're like, okay, let her handle it. So the Mongol, boom, kicks in the door. And he's like, something Mongol speaking. She starts crying, right? And you're like, whoa, I thought she said she handled it. Why is she crying? So she's crying because she knows that she can disarm the Mongol by, if she cries, hey, maybe he won't kill me. And that's exactly what happens. He's like, whatever, girl, I'm not gonna kill you because you're a weak woman. So then he turns his back to go loot whatever, and she busts out the dagger and just starts wrecking him. You know, slits his throat, stabs him in like the groin area like 12 times. And the player and Jin, who you play as, you're like, what the what? You did the thing? And that's the whole point of the game, I think, is that you're supposed to become the Ghost of Tsushima, but you learn different play styles. You have to disregard your samurai code to learn a new fighting style so you and your clan can live on the island of Tsushima. And that's what I want to say about the characters. They did them justice. From a female strong character to a male strong character, I didn't feel either way that they were pandering to each side. I believed that once Yuna saved me and did amazing things, I wanted to learn from her. And then once that was established, I believed that she was an amazing badass and it didn't just create some convoluted thing that was unbelievable. Overall, Ghost of Tsushima is a masterpiece of a game. Yes, it's a PS4 exclusive and sometimes that could be sad for people that don't have it, but I encourage you to play this game. Everyone should play this game. It's amazing. The combat's great, the visuals are amazing, the photo mode's great. They didn't talk about nickel and diming you for DLC. Well, that's it for the review for Ghost of Tsushima. If you've watched this channel and seen some of my other reviews, I don't give things like a numerical score or any weird thing like that. I should just tell you if you should play it or if it's a great game. This game's a masterpiece. You're gonna come back for more and more. And as we wait for any type of additional content that can come to this, I will gladly give them the money for that because they've earned it. Other than that, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I encourage you to check out some of the other stuff on this channel. And also I wanna say a special thanks to my Discord peeps. You guys gave me a lot of great ideas for this review, so special shout out to everyone there. And if you guys want to join the Discord yourselves, the link is down below. We do a lot of meetups. The channel's mainly revolved around VR games, but gaming in general, I welcome everyone to join that one. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe right now, you know, blah, 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 YouTube things. We're very close to our 5,000 sub mark, and you guys all know that means a Patreon, because anyway, thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I'm Rob from Downloadable Content, and I will see you in the next video.